So in this tutorial we are going to study the control statements in Java, and control statements are basically used to run a block of statements based upon some conditions. So the most basic control statement is the if else and the switch statement. Both of them are the selection statements, and say by selection I just mean that if your condition evaluates to be true, then it is going to select some block of statements and it will execute them. So first let's take an example of if else statement. So you can see here the syntax of the if else statement. So first you will use the if keyword and make sure that I should be small. Then after this if keyword you are going to write the condition, and the condition can be like a less than b, or x should be less than 10, or like that. So you are going to use some conditional operators in this place. So if your condition will be true, or if the condition evaluates to be true or 1, so it is going to run the block of statements inside this in between these curly braces. And if the condition is false, then it will move on to the else part, and then it will run the block of statements in the else part. Moving on to the switch statement. Switch statement is based upon the choice. So in switch statement, a choice is given, and based upon that choice the program will choose a particular case, and if the case is matched, then it is going to run the block of statements inside that case. So let's suppose the choice was an integer variable and it is equal to 2. So it is matched with the case 1. So 1 is not equal to 2, so that's why we have written a break statement here. Break statement is used to break out of this case. So it will now move on to the case 2. Since case 2 is the right choice, it will run all the cases. It will run this statement, it will print case 2, and it will break out of this switch case. So let's implement both of these statements in the Eclipse IDE. So you can see here, this is the void main function, and inside this void main function I have already created an if else statement. So first I have created two variables a and b, and I have initialized them with some values 12 and 23. So now we have started the if part, and the condition says that if the value of a is less than b. So we know that the value of a is less than b, so the condition is true. So if the condition is true, it is just going to print the sum of the two numbers, which is a and b. If this condition will be false, then the else part will run, and in the else part the value of a is incremented by 10, and then it is going to print the value of a. So this is a basic example of an if else statement. So it's very simple. If a condition evaluates to be true, run the block of statements inside the if part, or else move to the else part. So you can also include more if else inside this else part, or inside this if part, which is known as nested if else. So let's move on to the switch case. So let's suppose the user has entered the choice as 3. So in the switch case, we are going to write the switch and we are going to write the choice. So choice is 3. So you can see here that I have created case 1, case 2. So in case 1, you can see that the choice is not equal to 1. So it will not run this case, it will move on to another case, which is case 2. Since choice is equals to 3, which is not equal to 2, case 2 will not run. Since there is no further cases remaining, it will run the default case. And in the default case, we are just going to print out the division of these two variables. And after performing this, we have included the break statement, which breaks out of this switch case. And it is necessary because if you will not write a break statement here, it is going to run all the cases. So this is the switch case and the if-else statements. So now we are going to move on to the iteration statements. So in the iteration statements, we have for loop, while loop, and the do while loop. So we are going to discuss all of them one by one. So first let's move on to the for loop. So here is a for loop. So you can see here for loop is just a loop which will run a following statements or a block of statements until and unless there is a condition, and if this condition evaluates to be false, then it will stop running these statements. That's why this is known as a loop. If there is no condition, then this statements or the block of statements inside this for loop will run infinitely. So there are three parts of the for loop. One is the initialization, second is the condition, and third one is the updation. And make sure that these three are in the right order. You cannot shuffle them. So in the for loop, what you are going to do is you are going to first initialize a variable. Let's suppose it is I equals to 0. Then this, in the next part, you are going to write a condition. So we are going to run this block of statement until and unless the value of I becomes greater than 10. So if this condition will be false if I will be having the value greater than 10. Since we have initialized the value of I as 0, it is always true. So we will have to update the value of I in such a manner that it will just make this condition false and it will break out of the for loop, or else our for loop will run infinitely. So in the next part, we are going to update the value of I. So the flow of control in the for loop will be like this. First of all, you are going to initialize the value of I. Then you are going to check the condition. So I equals to 0, 0 is less than 10. If this condition is true, then run the block of statements inside this for loop. Then move on to the updation part. After running all the statements, update the value of I by incrementing it by 1. So you can see this is an increment operator here. So now the value of I becomes equals to 1. Now after updation, move on to the condition. Then we are going to check whether the value of I is less than 10. So 1 is less than 10. Then again run the following statements. Then we will update again, then check the condition, then again run the following statements. And we are going to do that until and unless the value of I will be equal to 10, because 10 less than 10 is equals to false. So let's implement this for loop in our IDE, in our Eclipse IDE, and see how what will be the output of this program. So now you can see that this is our for loop, and this is we have initialized a value separated by a semicolon. Do not forget this semicolon. It is a semicolon, not a comma. Then we have written a condition here and the updation. So let me just write it as print only so that it does not format it to the next line. So let's see the output of this for loop. So you can see here that our for loop has given this output. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it has actually printed out the value of I. It has run from 0 till 9. When the value of I becomes equal to 10, then 10 less than 10 evaluates to be false, and thus it has not displayed 10 here. So this is an example of a for loop. So let's move on to the while loop. So while loop is also another form of the for loop. While loop will also run a block of statements until and unless the condition given in while loop evaluates to be false. And in order to make this condition false, we will have to update the value, just as we are doing it here. So in this manner, we are going to run the block of statements in a loop. If you are not updating the values, this while loop will run for the infinite time. Similarly, in the do while loop, you can see here that this is a while, then condition, and these are the block of statements. But see, you can see here this is a do here. So when you have written a do while loop, then these block of statements in the do while loop will run at least once. It doesn't matter whether this condition is true or false. It is not going to check it when it runs for the first time. So first time it will just check, it will not check the condition, it will just run these block of statements. Then it will move on to the while part. Then it will check the condition, and then it will again move to the do part. And this goes on and on until and unless this condition evaluates to be false. So let's just implement while and do while loop in our Eclipse IDE. So you can see here, first initialized the value of j as 0. So this is our while loop. You can see here that I have written a condition here, j should be less than 9, and then I have printed the value of j, and then we are updating the value of j. So remember that you will have to update the value of j. If you will forget to update this value, then this while loop will run for an infinite number of times. So you can see in the IDE, it has displayed 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it is running till 8 because we have written 9 here. So when the value of j becomes equals to 9, so 9 less than 9 evaluates to be false, so it has come out of this while loop. So now let's move on to this do while loop. You can see that first we have initialized the value of k as 11. In the do while loop, first we will run these block of statements. So first we are displaying the value of k, then we have incremented the value of k, and then in the while we have written the condition. So this block of statement will run at least once, even if this condition evaluates to be false. So you can see here it has printed out 11. So initially the value was 11. Initially the k is equals to 11, so it has printed out 11. After that, the value of 11 is incremented by 1, so now k is equal to 12. So in the while condition, you can see it is false, so it will come out of this do while loop. So you can see that the benefit of do while loop is that it runs the following statements at least once without checking the condition inside the while loop. So these are the for, while and do while loop. Now we are going to study the continue statement and the labels. So these are also some of the jump statements which are used to jump to a particular part of a program. So let's suppose we have a for loop like this. So you can see that in the for loop it will run 9 times. It will run from 0 till 9. So it will first display the value of I plus a space. Then it will print out the value of ordered. If the value of I modulus 2, or if the value is even, which means that the remainder will be equal to 0. That's why it is divisible by 2. So then we are going to continue to the label order. You can apply a label by writing order with a following a colon here. So this is an label, so I'm going to write here label. So continue will skip all the statements after this if part, and it will start continuing the execution of the program from this label, which is the order. You can use this label in case of a break also. So the main reason of using a continue is that it will just continue with this for loop. If you will write break here, then it will come out of this for loop. So these are the jump statements, the break, continue, and the labels. So we have discussed the control statements. In the next tutorial, we are going to introduce classes and methods in Java. So thanks for watching.